We have a lot to talk about NVIDIA because as of right now, it has confirmed a bottom. And something very unusual happened today. We saw an AlphaGold alert on NVIDIA, which is a highly accurate alert, usually right about 70% of the time. And what that's doing is catching unusual buying patterns from hedge funds and institutions who are trying to hide their buying. And we're going to go over in this video why I think there's a pretty high chance that we're going to see NVIDIA back up this week between 112, 114, and maybe even 116. Now, the first thing is going to be CPI. CPI comes out tomorrow morning. Depending upon how that happens at 8:30, that's going to predict pre-market into the early session. From there, Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA, is going to be publicly speaking at, I think, 10:20 a.m. The main thing that they're going to be going over is Blackwater. Blackwater, they said they were going to have a massive amount of revenue from that aspect of the company, and yet I don't think that there's much or any. Don't kill me, I fundamentally don't know much about NVIDIA. I just know that that is something that's going to push the news. Now, when you have the CEO of a company, and this is what we're going to talk a lot about building our case here when it comes to trading. We're not just using fully, news data, fundamentals, technicals. We're putting them all together because we know that in tomorrow's case, we have the CEO of this company who's going to talk about Blackwater, a big part of their business, supposed to be huge for their future. That's one thing. On top of that, we have massive unusual buying patterns. You can see that the biggest alert that I could find today that would trigger the AlphaGold are these. This is 2/21/2025. So this is February of the year coming up. So, about 6 months from now. And you can see that the strike is $118. So this is an option that is far out of the money. Now, we know that this is bullish. This is not someone selling covered calls because if you look at the details, the last letter in this sweep is A. A means that the order was at the ask. We have a free course in the description going over all of this and exactly how I handpick this flow because I've been doing this for so long that there are certain things that you need to know in order to make sure you're not being misled by the people who are writing these options. If this letter here was B, that would be somebody selling covered calls. It's a totally different thing. So we know that this is bullish. Now, the other thing that we want to see here is urgency. So where you see type, sweep is exactly what we want. This means that all of the orders came through on one exchange. And since they paid the ask, they paid the worst price that they possibly could in order to fill on this trade. That shows a ton of urgency. When you're looking at about $3 to $4 million in options, the amount of slippage or the small loss that that person's going to have to take because they're essentially becoming the liquidity for the market, it really is crazy. They could have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars just getting into this trade. So the fact that they did that and didn't care is a very good sign because it means that they want to get in as soon as possible. We open up this chart. This is going to show you the price of the contract over the past month and a half. You're going to see at one point, this contract was worth about $25 and now it's worth about $12. So the contract has gone down in half the price. If we look at this massive vertical bar, this is our volume. So you can see normally we have volume of 42 per day. That means 42 contracts are traded in a day. That's not that crazy. The highest volume we've seen in the most recent months was back here on the 30th of August, where we had 233. So once again, not that many contracts. Today, just today, 4,457 volume, basically all of it coming from one individual. If you want to learn more about all of the indicators that you see in this video, as well as the proprietary settings and the step-by-step trading system that I've built, you can take all of our courses completely free with the link in the description. Now, these people are not always right. You have to understand that just because you have a lot of money in this game does not mean that you know what you're doing. Hedge funds go out of business as well, just like retail traders. So it doesn't mean that just by this buy order alone that we should take a position. Like we said, we have news tomorrow, macro data, macro data, and on top of that, we know that we also have unusual buying, and this person probably knows a little something. Well, cool. Now let's move over to the charts. So the first thing we want to know is what's the trend? Well, the trend is obviously up. If you know how to draw trend lines and dictate lows, you're going to notice that we're obviously making higher lows. Even though we're pulling back, those lows are still making higher lows and bullish structure is still in play. Another way that you could do this is just go to the weekly chart and use the market bias, which we teach in our academy completely for free. The course to it is down below. As long as it's over this line, we know that we're in a bullish trend. Well, now I want to know in the cycle, am I paying too much, or am I not paying, or am I getting a deal? So if we take our fib from swing low to most recent swing high, you're going to see the golden pocket, which is the 0.618 to the 0.786, is going to be the discount range or the institutional buying range. This is going to be where big money is starting to step in most cases, which that's exactly what happened here. I was honestly expecting this to continue to sell off to worst $100 or $98, but it does seem like the short-term bottom is in. The final thing we look for is bullish and bearish accumulation. The way we can tell that this is going to be a real bottom is by looking at the BX trender. If it's making higher lows, which you can see it's doing here, that's showing that real buying is coming in. Last time this occurred, price pushed up 29% within 13 days. So it doesn't mean that has to happen now, but that's a very good sign. So at this point, I think NVIDIA is probably going to run up to maybe 116, 118, or 120. From there, I do think that there's a good chance we could reject before continuing to consolidate into October. If you want to learn exactly the key things to look for, which we went over in this video before taking a trade, we do have a course that's completely free in the description called the Elite Traders Playbook. Now, I only open 100 slots there because anybody who takes that course per day does get access to our academy for free 1 month if they complete the entirety of the course. And so that's why I only do 100 slots. So this way people can't overload the system, and I can make sure that we keep the quality and the community that we have at our company. So if you guys want to check that out, the link is in the description, and we actually open 100 slots every single day at 4 p.m. So if you miss it today, you can just keep the link and check tomorrow.